Welcome YouTube to another D&D Advice Fridays. Today we'll be finishing up our little mini series on character overviews by taking a look at the Artificer class and just seeing what these geniuses have to offer. But before we begin, let's not forget, definitely hit that notification button, hit subscribe to the channel, and comment on down below what you think, what your thoughts on the Artificer is all about. Without further ado, let's get on to these tactical geniuses.
All right, let's do it.
So when it comes to the Artificer, the Artificer is a half caster, eventually getting up to 5th level spell slots. And they're the only other intelligence-based caster in the game besides wizards. Of course, you have your arcane trickster rogue, your eldritch knight fighter, and whatnot. But in terms of an entire class by itself, a base class, this is the only other intelligence caster. So that's I think is much needed within the game of D&D. Also, when it comes to their proficiencies, when it comes to saving throws, they get an intelligence proficiency in terms of intelligence saving throws, and they get the all-important proficiency in constitution saving throws, which is going to really help you keep those concentration checks up and running.
Yeah.
So one of their primary things is their spellcasting, which they get right away at first level. It pretty much follows the same thing of full casters, and the whole thing behind Artificers is they're really coming up with all these technological advancements. That's their whole stick. So pretty much when you think of D&D, Artificers are the D&D versions of your engineers, your software developers, those type of folks. So that's where they really get a lot of their ideology from. And then they get a few very cool things throughout their progression as an artificer. So coming up right away at second level, you get infusions, which is kind of sort of like warlock invocations, which they can do a few different things based on what options you pick up, from creating magical items like bags of holding and things of that nature, to creating +1 weapons, +1 armor, shields, stuff like that, to creating homunculus servants. So the options are pretty vast in what you can pick up, and you can switch out infusions pretty much when you want on a level up or the like. So there's a lot of room for creativity, and there's probably not going to be any two same artificers unless you plan for it.
Right.
And then one of the other big things on artificers is they're really big on their tool proficiencies, which is something you don't see a lot of in D&D outside of thieves tools. So one of the big things is on third level, whenever you pretty much have some tools in your hand, you can produce the exact tools that you actually need for the situation. So when you have thieves tools or artisan tools in hand, you can use up 1 hour, so a short rest or whatever, and you can create whatever tool that you need. If you need tinkerer's tools, brewer's tools, whatever you need until the next short or long rest. Or should I say, this can also coincide with a short or long rest, and the tools appear within 5 feet of you. Of course, tools are non-magical and all that stuff, but it's a really neat feature if you know what you're coming up with. And then, of course, on 6th level, you have tool expertise. So whatever proficiencies you have in any of your tools, they're now treated as expertise. So that you're going to be the master of, if the GM asks for a tool check, you're going to be the one to want to do it.
Yes. Yeah, double proficiency is pretty good.
Yeah, as when you get this on 6th level, you're now going to pretty much have a +6 from your proficiency now, on top of whatever skill is tied to it.
Yep.
And then probably the other biggest thing is their magic item adept, which you get starting on 10th level and is improved throughout the rest of the Artificer's career. So on 10th level, you can attune up to 4 magic items at once instead of the normal 3. Um, and then later on in level, so they increase. So for instance, on 14th level with a magic item savant, it's 5 magic items you can attune to, and on 18th level, it's a grand total of 6 magic items you can attune to at any one time. And the fun doesn't stop there. As part of your 14th level skill, you ignore all class, race, spell, and level requirements for attuning to magical items. So as an artificer, if you really want to wield that Holy Avenger, that staff of the Archmagi, that robe of that Archmagi, some of those really OP and good stuff, you can just say, yeah, I'll take that, no problem.
I'm familiar with magic items, and it don't matter which class they're for. They'll fit me just fine.
And to make it matters even worse, on 20th level, your capstone, not only can you, when you're reduced to 0 HP and not killed outright, you can quickly unattune to one of those attunement items that you have to pretty much just go to 1 HP instead of 0. But you have a +1 to all saving throws that you have per magic item that you're attuned to with a maximum of 6. That's amazing.
It's a great, great capstone.
Yep. And it's ridiculous to think that if you're within range of a paladin's aura of protection, you basically have upwards of +11 to your saving throws. Unless you're coming up against something that has some ridiculous saving throw, you're probably going to make that save.
Yep, for sure, definitely. And like a lot of capstones in D&D, level 20 skills are pretty OP. Anyway, and this falls right in line with that. So
Yeah. So if you're looking for a really good capstone for a level 21 shot or a level 1 to 20 campaign or something like that, then this is something to think about. And it kind of fits the whole artificer's thing of learning all these magic items and technology and stuff like that.
yes, definitely.
And each subclass of the artificer kind of fits that notion of a technological genius in different ways and forms as well, which you get your subclass on 3rd level. And the first thing is the alchemist. The alchemist is this whole mad scientist type of vibe. They create different elixirs and they deal a lot with like poison and fire damage based stuff. Um, Personally, when I think of the alchemist and the whole mad scientist type of thing, I think of characters such as like Orochimaru from Naruto or like Captain Kurisuchi from Bleach. That whole type of this crazy mad scientist that if you cross their way, they're probably going to infect you with some sort of poison when you um, least expect it or subject you to some crazy experimentations or something like that. So their main selling point for the class is their experimental elixir, which you get on 3rd level, and basically whenever you finish a long rest, you get a free elixir, and you can spend a spell slot at any point in time to create an elixir. Now the thing to remember is the elixir you get off of a long rest, it's a random effect. But if you spend a spell slot, you get to choose the effect for the elixir. The elixirs have some decent effects. So, for instance, one of the effects you can get is a minor heal. So, kind of like a regular healing potion for 2d4 plus your intelligence modifier. Another one is it grants the drinker a flying speed of 10 feet for 10 minutes, or you can potentially gain a +1 AC for 10 minutes. So there's a few interesting effects. The only downside to this elixir is that it really doesn't scale well with level, but these effects are still pretty useful nonetheless.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're looking at added bonuses here and a little bit of flavor with what the Artificer can do. That's kind of why I really like the level 9 skill that you pick up, restorative reagents. So you add just a little extra spice to your elixirs when you create them. Um, you can either uh, create one that, or you can add a restorative agent that will allow a creature to gain temporary hit points equal to 2d6 plus your intelligence modifier with a minimum of always 1. Or you can cast Lesser Restoration without expending a spell slot and without preparing the spell, provided you use your alchemist supplies as the spellcasting focus. Um, and that basically lets you can do so a number of times equal to your intelligence modifier, and you regain all expended uses whenever you finish a long rest. So every time that somebody drinks an elixir, one of these two things can happen. So I think that's kind of a neat little feature that you add just a little extra spice in as you learn to create your elixirs as you level up. So
And it's definitely pretty cool as a whole within this subclass. I think folks can really have a lot of fun when it comes to this. And it's just
I think so too.
and I can see it now. It's like, and you get a potion, and you get a potion, and you get a potion. Potions for everybody.
Oceans for everybody. Are you saying that through the Oprah Winfrey of the D&D universe? Is this what you're implying there, Nikai?
That that could very well be the case. Or it could also be used as a pretty interesting bad guy as well, creeping into the
Yeah.
laboratory of this alchemist, and you might not want to drink their potions right away.
I, I actually think that's a really cool idea, is that the big bad of your campaign is a mad scientist, right? And they're an alchemist uh, artificer that are creating crazy elixirs and effects from those elixirs. I think that's a pretty neat idea, actually.
Yeah. And also as a player, I could see it being a neat idea if you talk with your GM and say, hey, if I make some sort of like nature check or arcana check or something like that, can I use like my alchemist supplies to create maybe like one of those low level potions from the
Sure.
DMG? Like, can I create like a potion of water breathing if I make a good check or something like that?
That's a great idea, actually. That's a really, really great idea.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of different things you can definitely go with alchemist. Next up, we have the armorer artificer. This sort of artificer is all about taking a basic piece of armor and transforming it into their own magical armor that can really fulfill one of two different types of functions. So the first off, so first off, whenever they don on one of their magical armors, they can use intelligence instead of either strength or dexterity as the attack and damage rolls. And then they have two different types of models: the guardian or the infiltrator. And basically, the Guardian is the up close and personal, bulky type of armor where they do melee strikes. And whenever they happen to hit somebody, that target has disadvantage on attack rolls against anybody else except for this Artificer, which is kind of cool as a tank to help take the pressure off of your allies. In as a bonus action, you can really grant your allies low within a defensive field, granting them some temporary hit points. So that's kind of cool. It's kind of like the tanky, supportive model
Yep.
of armor, where the infiltrator is the ranged, sneaky type of armor. So they pretty much have a laser as their weapon, more or less, dealing a little bit of extra lightning damage. 1d6 lightning damage once per turn. They can do an extra 1d6 on one of their attacks. Um, their speed is now 5 feet higher, which is kind of cool. And they have advantage on stealth checks. And if the armor normally imposes disadvantage on those types of checks, such as heavy armor. The advantage and disadvantage cancel each other out. So that's really good. Now you're not clunking around,
Yeah.
really drawing attention to yourself. So when it comes to these armor models, of course, the place where my mind goes first, as to be expected with anybody, is Iron Man and Tony Stark. This this is Stark so much.
Oh yeah, this is definitely modeled after the Iron Man suit. Uh, Definitely, right? The Infiltrator made me definitely think of uh, the Iron Man suit. You get rocket boosters essentially because you get some extra speed. You've got a cannon on your arm that shoots out lightning damage, and then you get dexterity. You know, you can weave yourself in and out of attacks. Yeah, that is exactly where my mind went. 100%.
And to make matters even more like Stark, you can switch out these models whenever you wish during a long rest.
Oh, very nice. That's actually really good because depending on where the story is going or the potential encounter that's coming up, you can take advantage of saying, I'm going to tweak my armor to do this and this to have some extra opportunity um, in the next encounter in that next part of the story. So that's actually a really neat feature too. And then if we actually look at what at the capstone of this subclass, the perfected armor, you actually gain a couple of extra more benefits for the two different types of classes. So if we look at the Guardian class, whenever a huge or smaller creature you see ends its turn within 30 feet of you, you can use your reaction to magically force the creature to make a strength saving throw. Pulling the creature up to 30 feet towards you, and then once it's within 5 feet of you, you can make a melee attack against it as part of the reaction. So not only do you pull them towards you, you can punch them right in the face. And you can use this reaction a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and then you regain all of those expended uses at the end of a long rest. So by the time you're at level 15, your proficiency bonus is 4, right? If I remember correctly, I think it's 4.
I'm level 15. It should be a
It's
plus
5.
5.
Okay, I was a little bit behind. So you have basically 5 reactions to pull somebody towards you and punch them in the face, which is crazy.
And that really um, doubles down on the Guardian's whole idea of I'm the party
Right.
tank. I'm making the job a whole lot easier for you to actually hit my allies.
And then if you're using the infiltrator armor, any creature that takes lightning damage from your lightning launcher glimmers with magical light, and the glimmering creature sheds dim light with a 5-foot radius, and it has disadvantage on attack rolls against you, as if the light jolts it if it attacks you. So you basically got a little shocker, whatever it tries to attack you that applies disadvantage to them. And then in addition, the next attack roll against it has advantage. And if that attack hits, it's another 1d6 of lightning damage. So it's got, you just put, you add a little creature on its shoulder and it's, nope, you're not going to attack. Nope, somebody hit you. Here's an extra little shock. So kind of a neat little capstone here for this subclass.
And for that infiltrator ability, I think one of the greatest teamwork abilities with that is, yeah, now the next attack has advantage. It would be a shame if my ally rogue or paladin was going right next to have advantage on their burst attack.
Well, I mean, advantage is good, so the more times you can give it, the better.
So I think all in all, the armorer is a very, very good and very versatile class, depending on if you want to be more of the tank or more of the support type of thing. You can pretty much have both and just change it up whenever you want.
Definitely. Yep. Agreed.
And then next up we have the artillerist. The artillerist is all about blasting your enemies with a lot of spells and their Eldritch Cannon, which is their whole class stick. So basically, once per day, you get a free bonus action summoning of an Eldritch Cannon, which you can decide to either hold it or it has legs to move around. And basically, that this Eldritch Cannon is kind of like a spiritual weapon where you can do different things with your and more or less weaponize your bonus action. So you have one of three options. You can either task it to be a flamethrower,
Which,
which basically within a 15-foot cone, you have to make a dexterity saving throw or take in a little bit of extra fire damage. Force ballista, Eldritch Blast, more or less. A much better Eldritch Blast, I should say, and the option to push that target back 5 feet. So it would be a shame if there was a cliff right there to push you over. Or it can take the form of a protector, granting everybody within 10 feet of it temporary hit points equal to 1d8 plus your intelligence modifier. So depending on what you need, um, you can you can pretty much pick up whatever you want. And of course, the first time per day, you can cast it for free. And any more times during that day, you need to use up a spell slot for that. So overall, I think it was pretty good. And when it comes to this whole blasting type of thing, my first my first thought honestly comes to any country's military force, fighting force, pretty much. It's like I'm gonna summon this Eldritch Cannon as a little mini tank or whatever.
definitely. Yeah, that's kind of the imagery that gets conjured up here, right? Is a little mini tank, or you know, a little fort that's got cannons sticking out that you can use for protection. And then, obviously as you progress, the cannon gets better and better as you gain more skills. And if we look at the capstone here, you get at level 15 with the fortified position. You and your allies can have half cover while within 10 feet of the cannon you create with Eldritch Cannon. So it basically is emitting a little shimmering field of magical protection from it. And which is, I think this is the cooler part of the two skills, or the two benefits you get, is you can now have two cannons out instead of just one. And you create them with the same action, and you can activate both of them with the same bonus action. And then you determine whether cannons are identical to each other or different. So you can have one be a protector and one be a flamethrower, or both of them be flamethrowers if you want, or whatever combination that you deem necessary in that situation. So I think that is actually really cool that you gain so much proficiency in building one that you can easily build a second one and have it be available for you during your encounters.
Yep, agreed. Like with two cannons now, you can either double down on your offensive capabilities, or you can say, I'm still going to attack you with a flamethrower or the force ballista, but I'm also going to support my allies and keep their temporary HP topped off for a little bit and prevent damage. But preventing damage with temporary hit points reduces the amount of times you need to actually heal people up.
A great benefit for the whatever healer you have in the party, is it lets them maybe focus on other things instead of constantly healing. So yeah, that's actually a really good point.
Yeah, as the common D&D saying goes, damage prevented is damage that you don't need to heal. So coming up next is the fourth and final Artificer subclass, which is the Battlesmith. The Battlesmith is really your more so your melee weapon user. And one of the cool things about this is whatever weapon you choose, just like the armorer, you get to use your intelligence instead of strength or dexterity.
Yeah.
So that's really, really cool right there. and you get your extra attack so you can attack multiple times. But one of the
Yeah.
cool things is the Steel Defender that you get on third level, which is kind of like the Beastmaster Ranger in a way. You get this little defender that you can take wherever you want, and it acts on your same turn right after you. That can do a couple of different things. You can take the attack action with it, or it's a bonus action, or anything like that. So it's kind of cool. It has its own little reaction where that's called the deflect attack, where as long as it's within 5 feet of any creature, and somebody attacks that creature, it can use its own reaction to force disadvantage on that attack roll, which could really save somebody. Like if from prior experience you know that the second attack that a creature is making is some big 5d8 attack or something like that, you can just say, all right, Steel Defender, cost disadvantage on that big time attack to potentially make it hit. So now you only have to worry about this
Yeah,
little
the deflect
1d6
attack off the
attack
Steel
going at
Defender is a
somebody.
great addition to it. It's way more powerful than you would give it credit for.
Yeah. And when it comes to the Steel Defender fighting alongside a Battlesmith, my first thought pattern really goes to John Wick, just along the fact that yeah, he has a puppy that dies, so that could be a little interesting backstory you can tweak in here. It's like, yeah, I used to have a puppy, but he died, so I made a Steel Defender, and the whole imagery of my dead puppy, and I'm out for a little bit of vengeance on those folks that killed my puppy.
Sure, we can take the story that way if you want, Nakai. That's great.
And maybe multi-class
That would
3 levels
be
into
much more
Oath of
John
Vengeance
Wick. Yes,
Paladin.
yes, it would. One of the other skills that I like out of this class is the one that you get at level 9, the Arcane Jolt. Whether you hit an enemy with a magic weapon attack or your Steel Defender hits a target, you can channel some extra damage into that attack. The target would take an extra 2d6 of damage, force damage, and then you can choose one creature object you see within 30 feet of the target, and healing energy flows into the chosen recipient, restoring 2d6 hit points to target. I said and it's an either or sort of situation there, and then you can use this energy a number of times equal to your intelligence modifier, but you can do so no more than once a turn. So this is a one turn sort of thing, but sometimes you need that extra little bit of damage or that extra little bit of healing to get your party to that next round or to the next cleric turn or whatever it might be. It's always nice to have those little extra bonus pieces of bonus damage or healing sprinkled throughout your progression through your class.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Overall, I'm really liking the Artificer class and what they did with the Artificer,
Mm.
especially once they brought it into Tasha's. Yep, and it's always cool to play an Artificer in a party and say, "All right, party, welcome to your new addition to the party. I'm of course your Artificer, and I'm going to be the Scrum Master for your party."
Always organizing, right?
Or, yeah, or whatever software development term that folks wish to use as your own personal Artificer. Ooh, oh look, a magic item. I'm just going to be the product owner of this magic item real quick
I will assign
and
that
take
to
it for
me.
myself.
Thank you.
Oh, and it's a legendary item?
Nice.
Okay, it's going to be a 13-point item. Oh, this is just a potion of
You can
water
have that
breathing.
one.
It's a 3-point item.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of neat synergy and interactions that you can get out of the Artificer. I think I think it's a very unique class within the realm of D&D. I think that something like this was probably sort of missing from the classes, so I'm glad they've added something like this in here too. So
Yeah, it definitely is. And it's definitely going to be interesting to see how the Artificer fits into some of the more traditional medieval D&D games, since since the Artificer is more or less a more traditional
it
high
is very
intellect,
much
high
centered around
technology
technology
type
in some form or
class.
fashion. Yep.
Yeah, hence why it came from Eberron. But like I said, I like the way they're going with this. It's kind of bringing more to the game of D&D instead of just always being in the Dark Ages, the medieval time period, or even like the Victorian era or something like that. Now you have a little bit more versatility to say, hey, I want to run like a more modernistic campaign. I now have some ideas of what to go off of now for enemies,
Yeah.
NPCs, whatever.
This definitely opens up that door of possibilities to be able to expand the look and feel of the universe.
Overall, I like it. And with that, as sad as it might be, we're going to be closing out our character overview mini-series. So until next time, we'll see you with our next little fun D&D video. And until
Bye,
then,
everyone.
keep y'all's lives geeky.